So what happens when one former U.S. Army recruiter interviews another former U.S. Army recruiter? The stories get wild. That's coming up next. Trust and believe. All right, welcome back. So all this week, if you've been tracking, we've been conducting interviews all this week. Monday was an interview. Tuesday was an interview. So today will be the third interview for this week. And typically Thursdays is, slated for Gym Shoe Stories on the Thursday. Kind of push that to the side just for this week. And we're going to execute our third interview for the week. And I'm interviewing former Army First Sergeant Mr. Nees, as you can see here in the thumbnail. And we have a history together. We have the same MOS, 92 Alpha, in the Army. And both of us were former U.S. Army recruiters. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. The NOMADCAST presents the interview with Mr. Nees. Trust and believe. Trust and believe, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuned into episode 125 of the NOMADCAST, a podcast that covers multiple topics. I am here with a good friend of mine, a battle buddy, as we say in the Army, or did they transition to warrior companion, whatever they talk about. But this gentleman, we were stationed in Okinawa, Japan. What a time to be alive to be stationed in Okinawa. This gentleman definitely had a career path similar to mine. We both had the same MOS. We were both former Army recruiters. So he definitely understands what it's like to deal with the mental gymnastics of being a freaking recruiter. If you know, you know. He's an avid baseball fan. He loves the Boston Red Sox. I don't know why. Maybe we can convert him to be a Tigers fan, but we'll see how it goes. But nonetheless, I want to introduce soon-to-be Army retired First Sergeant, Mr. Nees is in the building. What's going on, sir?
Hello.
What is happening? I like the retirement fur. I like that.
Yeah. Like I said, I cut it down. It was about down to here.
Yeah.
Maybe a week and a half ago.
Uh-huh.
But I had to go final out. So
yeah. When I did my final, I retired in November 2020. Well, my leave started in freaking the end of June. So I had the skin face going on, and I started letting the hair grow. And I was like, you know what? Other people say, man, just when you final out, just wear a full beard. And I'm like, nah, because I still got to final out in freaking uniform. So let me just go ahead and skin it. And then once I get that DD-214, the handshake, once they kick you out the door, I grow the fur. Yep. All right, my man. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to talk about, just to touch on, we talk about your upbringing, enlisting in the Army, life after the Army, soon to be your life after the Army. And if we have time, touching on some duty stations, favorite duty stations, least favorite duty stations, duty positions, least favorite. And then we'll talk about lessons that you learned in the Army that you're going to apply to your regular life. And then for the closing remarks, you can plug any business or anything that you're getting ready to do as it relates to the future. Sounds good?
All right,
man. So let's talk about your upbringing. Brad Nees. Brad Nees is born. What is going on?
So, I was a little tyke born in Iowa.
Okay.
Spencer, Iowa. And it was a farming community. I mean, both my grandparents, farmers, aunts and uncles, farmers. I guess to have a lot of my relatives on my dad's side still doing farming back in Iowa.
Right.
And then, stuff happens. Parents get divorced, moved to Wichita and Kansas and lived there for a little while. And then we moved out to the East, where I spent most of my troubled youth.
Yeah.
And it was for me. It was just another move, another school. Like, I didn't care. I was in middle school.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a big deal to me. And then, I was like one of 3 white kids in my entire school. and I joined the basketball team because I wanted to play basketball. I like playing basketball,
Right.
you know. And I think we were on the way home from like one of my first games, and my stepdad was like, "So, how do you feel being, you know, the only white kid on your team?" And I was like, "I don't know. How am I supposed to feel? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care.
Right.
It don't bother me a bit.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, I like my teammates, and we have fun together. We play good together, and you know, whatever.
Yep.
You know, like back then, you know, it was just the way I saw the world was like there was no color, just like in the army. You know,
Yeah.
the only color was green.
That's it. That's it.
And you know, it wasn't anything different to me, but you know, they thought it was going to be a big culture shock. You know, moving from a town where we had maybe one or two black families in the entire town to, you know, a town where, you know, like I said, I was one of 3 white kids in the school. Like, it didn't make a difference to me. Like, and you know, I'm glad that I grew up, you know, where I grew up, and you know, experienced everything that I experienced. You know, different cultures, and I mean, hell, my people listen to my playlist on my phone. They're like, you know, it goes from like Wu-Tang Clan to you know, Garth Brooks to Metallica to Frank Sinatra, and they're like, what the, like, yeah, I'm cultured. What can I say?
Yeah, I've been privy to your playlist in the Japan days. Yeah, man.
So yeah, I mean, and I grew up mostly in Connecticut, and then we moved to Kansas City, and that's where I did my high school, and that's where I joined the Army, and you know, started my Army adventures.
What was when you decided to walk in that door, and we know this as former recruiters, when you walked in that door, what was your initial plan? Do I want to just hear what he's saying? Do I want a career? Do I just want some money for college? What was the initial plan?
Well, me and my cousin were supposed to join together. But his dumbass went and got 2 DUIs after he graduated. And so that kind of nicked him. We were supposed to join on the buddy plan. And, you know, and he actually was the one who had already talked to a recruiter and picked the job 92 Alpha. And he's like, we should do this job because he's like, the recruiter says all you do is drive a forklift in a warehouse. I'm like, I could drive a forklift, whatever.
Yeah.
And obviously that was a lie.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So, you know, it was way more than that. I mean, I learned a lot of the 92 Alpha, and I'm happy I had the experience as a 92 Alpha. You know, I mean, it's not just warehouse work. You know, I had no intentions to go into college because I hated high school.
Right.
I was like, schoolwork, that's stupid.
Yeah. Why are we doing this?
Right.
Your recruiter, was it male or female?
He was male.
Yeah. What was your recruiter like? Was he like the stereotypical recruiter? Oh, you'll never go to war. Oh, you know, you'll be home whenever you want. You can get you that Camaro.
Yeah, I mean, back then, you know, it was, shit, when did I join? August of 98 was when I got to basic.
Yeah.
And so I joined in the delayed entry program. So I actually joined in February while I was still a senior.
Yep.
And at that point, like, I've always been like an easygoing person. You know, I got in a bad accident in high school where, you know, I was life flighted to the hospital and in a coma for a couple of days. And, you know, ever since then, I've just go with the flow, you know, do whatever. And, you know, the recruiter didn't have to tell me much except of where to sign and when to leave. Like, that's really all he had to say, because I already knew I wasn't going to college, like I said. So the Army was the place for me.
When you got to what was your first duty station?
My first duty station was Fort Lewis, Washington, which I am not, obviously I wasn't good in high school, didn't pay much attention. Obviously not a geographical person.
Yeah.
And so when we were at Fort Lee and AIT and they were giving out orders, they were like, "You're going to Fort Lewis." I'm like, "Okay." They were like, "You know where that is?" I was like, "Nope." They were like, "Washington." I'm like, "Washington, D.C.? There's a base in Washington, D.C.?" He's like, "No, Washington State." I'm like, "Where the hell is Washington State?"
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know.
And that's most people, they don't know.
Yeah. And I got there and like literally sitting in the PX food court while I was at reception. And I walked down the street to the food court to the PX because we didn't have anything to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sitting in the food court eating a piece of pizza, and I look out the window of the PX food court area. Is just a big window in Fort Lewis.
Yeah.
I look out the window and I see Mount Rainier. I was
Yeah.
like, "Holy shit!"
Yes.
I was like, "What is that?"
Yeah.
I was dumbfounded, man. I was
Yeah.
like, "Wow, that's awesome."
No matter where you look, when you at Fort Lewis, commonly known now as freaking JBLM, but we still call it Fort Lewis. I remember I was there from 07 to 10, and when I am processed, I remember looking out that window, and the staff sergeant, he was like, "Y'all look out the window." He said, "You see Mount Rainier?" We was like, "Roger." He's like, "If that thing erupt, you got like 50 minutes to evacuate, and the only way you can leave is I-5."
Yeah. So in other words, you're gonna die.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anybody who's been to Fort Lewis knows the I-5 is just horrible.
It's like a freaking parking lot. Cars never go anywhere. So after you left Fort Lewis, where did you go?
So I spent quite a time in Fort Lewis, but I left shortly after I got there. I did a tour in Korea.
Where
so I went to Korea for a year. I was at Camp Stanley.
Oh yeah, it's closed down now.
Camp Stanley is?
Yeah, Stanley closed when I was in the last time I was in Korea was from 17 to 18, and it was just closing around that time.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. But yeah, I did my time at Camp Stanley, and then I did my year there, and then went right back to Fort Lewis. And I was there. I was at Fort Lewis until 2000. When was that? I think it was 2006 when I left for recruiting. Yeah.
Okay. Now when you went on recruiting, your recruiting time was definitely different from when I was a recruiter, because during that time, remember, they had all the scandals and guys was working 96 hours a day and all that. For the folks that don't know what that recruiter life is like, what was it like for you during that time when you first reported to the recruiting station?
So we had my first, it was the summer I was there when I got there. I got there in like right in the beginning of summer. And so school had just got out.
Yep.
And it was during that toxic era where, recruiters started killing themselves. And so, yeah, it was, we did 2 weeks where the first sergeant, so back up a little bit. So we made mission, right? Commander and first sergeant come to our station and they start yelling at us. And I'm like, didn't we make mission?
Yeah.
Like, is that a good thing? And they were like, yeah. I'm like, why the fuck they yelling at us?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the next month we missed mission by like 3 or 4. And they came to the station and I'm like, oh, here we go again. This one's gonna be bad. And they're like, we all have our bad months, guys. We just got to pick ourselves up and charge for next month. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm like, I'm so confused.
Yeah.
And then so that month was we spent 2 weeks where we were out we were out doing freaking. So we had to do cold calls.
Yes.
Remember those?
Yes.
So we had to do cold calls until 9 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
And then at 9 o'clock at night, we had to go P3 until midnight.
Yep.
So I had about a day of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that second day, I called all the recruiters in the station after we left.
Mm-hmm.
And I called all of them. I was like, look, I ain't doing this shit for 2 weeks. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You know how I am.
Yeah.
And I was like, this ain't happening. I was like, I'm going to Side Pockets. I'm going to have a beer and play pool. And that's what I'm going to do for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like after we leave the office. Mm-hmm. I'm not playing this game. And that's what I did.
That whole, I tell you, because I went on recruiting 2010 to 13. And it was, you're doing your cold calls, your red time. We would make mission, like you say, but the freaking commander and first sergeant will still come down there. Y'all not making enough phone calls. And I'm like, but we're getting, because our market was really walk-ins. Phone calls was just, nobody was answering their phone. So we either had walk-ins or when we do our area canvassing. Well, y'all not making enough phone calls. I don't know what you guys are doing here all day. I'm like, we're not in here all day. We out in the street. We in the schools, we in the malls. Very frustrating, toxic environment. But I loved it.
Yep. I hated high schools too. I despised going to high schools. I think the entire 3 years I was in recruiting, I think I put in maybe 4 high school students.
Yeah. Ours was walk-ins. We got high schoolers, but walk-ins was our bread and butter. That was our bread and butter. All right, so you left recruiting. Where did you go after that?
So after recruiting, so literally it was funny because you know how 92 Alphas are. We're wanted, and so I got a call from my company commander in recruiting because we got a new commander at this time. He was really cool. We had a new commander in first sergeant. They were great. And I was kind of enjoying recruiting.
Yeah.
But I hadn't decided whether or not I was going to convert.
Oh Lord, you said that word.
And so the commander called me and he's like, all right. He's like, Nees, I need an answer. And I was like, 7. He's like, that's not the answer. I was like, purple. And he's like, that's not the answer either. I'm like, all right. Well, what's the question? He's like, so your name came down the curtailment list. He's like, they want you back in the regular army. He's like, so if you want to convert, I need to know today. I was like, that's not possible. I was like, that's a big decision. I can't make that like right now.
Right.
Like I got to call my wife.
Exactly.
We got to sit down and have a conversation.
Exactly.
Like, this ain't a one-way deal. Like,
yeah, I'm not a single soldier.
Yeah, I was like, this is a big decision. And so he was like, all right. He's like, well, I need a decision. I was like, well, if you need a decision now, my decision is I'm going back to regular army. So I ended up going to Campbell, and right when I got to Campbell, they're like, we're deploying. I'm like, cool. Where are we going? And so we went to JBAD in Afghanistan, and that's actually the crazy. So when I went to JBAD, right, my first trip there, I was in charge of the mortuary affairs. So obviously that's not my job, but I took it on because my OIC asked me if I would. So I took that on, and so we did that. When I got there was a sergeant first class who was running the mortuary affairs.
Right.
And I told him, I was like, I don't know if I could do it. I was like, and he was like, look, dude, he's like, it's not a job anybody wants to do. He's like, but it's a job that needs to be done and needs to be done right.
Yeah. You're
preparing these heroes to go home to their family. And I was like, he was like, we just lost a soldier last month, in the BSB there. So he was like, we were all in that mortuary affairs that night with sunglasses on because we were bawling.
Yeah.
Every one of us, because they lost Doovie Wolf. And they actually dedicated the slick yard to her there on JBAD.
Right.
And so they dedicated the slick yard to her, and I was there for the dedication ceremony because I was part of the ADVON for our unit. So I met a lot of those people, and you know, then we left Campbell, or we left JBAD, went back to Campbell. 11 months later, went right back to JBAD. So this time I was in charge of the slick yard. So I was in charge of the slick yard, and then about halfway through the deployment, they're like, hey, start taking down all memorials. We're closing down JBAD, which obviously was a lie because I was just there in 2019, 2020, and it was still there.
Right.
So I was like, all right. So this marble plaque for Doovie, I had the guy who put it in place come and take it out. I was like, look, we need to take this down because, we're closing the base. And,
right.
I want to get this to somebody in her family. Like, I'm not going to have it sitting in a container at Campbell.
Exactly.
So I told him, I was like, I understand it's going to break, but break it into as many big pieces as possible. So that's what he did. I packed it in a tough box, sent it back to Campbell to my wife. She actually found a mason there at Campbell.
Sweet.
Who put it back together for free.
There you go.
And I found her sister through an obituary page, because Doovie had a very unique name.
Right.
And so I found her sister, and I messaged her sister on Facebook, and she's like, yeah, she's like, let me reach out to her husband, and see if he wants it. And he's like, and she messaged me back. She's like, yeah, I'll take it. She's like, I'm in Georgia. And I was like, okay. She's like, I'm working for 160th. And I'm like, really? I'm like, well, she's a civilian contractor for 160th. And a buddy of mine that I've known in the Army forever was working at 160th.
Oh, okay.
And so I reached out to him. I was like, hey, Anna? He's like, yeah. He's like, she's our supply lady. He's like, she's awesome. I was like, well, do you know the story of her sister? And he was like, well, I know she was killed in Afghanistan. I don't know, like, everything. So I told him about it and stuff. And so he drove up from Georgia, picked it up, brought it back to her, and presented it to her in front of their team.
Wow.
Sent me a video clip of it. And, so me and Anna have been friends ever since on Facebook, and then we moved here to Colorado, to Carson in 2020. We bought our house sight unseen. Like, literally, our realtor was walking through the house on FaceTime with us.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so we're like, yeah, we'll take it, whatever.
Yeah.
And so we moved in, and we got a nice little community where we live. It's right at the end of the cul-de-sac. So we got a bunch of retired military, active military, kids, And so we're all sitting out in Josh's my business partner. We're all sitting out in his front yard, or in his driveway. And he's telling me a story about how he made a battle axe when he was deployed. He was a Bostic. And he threw the battle axe at the door to the hooch and just ripped the whole thing off the hinges. So he started laughing. He goes, yeah, it was funny. He's like, so I walked outside to get it, and Sergeant Major standing there like, Sergeant Wolf, what the fuck? And I was like, and I'm sitting there, and I was like, Sergeant Wolf. I was like, did you know Doovie? And he was like, that's my wife.
God.
So we ended up moving 2 doors down from Doovie's widow and 2 daughters, and he was going to school for HVAC at the time, and I was, on the fence on retiring or not, and so I was like, this is like this is like a heaven sent message.
Yes, it is.
And, you know, I was like, you know, you want to start an HVAC business? I was like, let's do it.
There you go, man.
And yeah, that's the story of how Falling Star Heating and Cooling came to be.
That is, and I want to definitely touch on that, but I want to go back. That is the reason why, and I only can say this because outside of White Castle, the military is all I know. Those relationships, those sustainable relationships, I guess you can even say functional relationships, and the extension of those relationships is critical, man, because you just laid it out perfectly right there. You know, all those tentacles that took place, unfortunate passing of her, but look how her reach stretched out to different people, and then it's going to enhance your quality of life and everything. So that's a beautiful thing, man. That's a beautiful thing.
It's crazy. Like I've told that story a couple of times to some people in my BNI group, because we're both in a business networking group.
Right.
Grow our business. And yeah, I mean, everybody's like, gives them goosebumps, which obviously I got to tell them, like, look, you know, this story has a whole nother meaning to Josh's family.
Yes.
So, you know, if Josh comes to the BNI group, he's like, I'm like, don't talk to him about it. You know, don't ask him questions about it. I was like, because it's not something that he wants to talk about.
Yes.
Which I'm picking them up now because, like I said, we got to go pick up our van. And there he is. This is my business partner, Josh.
Hey, Josh, what's going on? He's like, what?
Yeah. He can't hear you because I have my earpiece in.
Got you. Well, let's go ahead and I want to touch on like lessons that you're learning from the Army, how you plan to apply it in your future endeavors with your business. And in our closing remarks, I want you to plug your business. That way I can put your website in the description if you're good to go with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the lessons that you learned from the Army, how you're going to apply it moving forward.
Well, I mean, just like everybody, you know, been in the Army. I mean, the biggest thing is like just growing and learning how to become the leader that you're meant to be.
Right.
You know, because everybody has it in them to be a leader.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it takes the right, you know, mentorship to bring that leadership out.
Yeah.
And, you know, the proper leadership. And that's the biggest thing that I'll always, you know, carry with me is, and it's really good with what is it? Extreme Ownership. Have you ever read that book?
I've heard of it. I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
So Extreme Ownership is written by 2 Navy SEALs. And it talks about having extreme ownership for everything you do. But the good thing about that book is like it's not just like it's talking about military missions that they had and stuff and how they, you know, incorporated extreme ownership with their missions. But it also talks about how that relates in the civilian sector as well. Because they were helping companies in the civilian side, you know, do it the same way. And so, you know, that leadership and mentoring and, you know, helping people grow into leaders is, you know, one thing that I'll always take with me and use, because I mean, that's what me and my partner here are trying to do, is we're trying to grow leaders in the HVAC business.
There you go.
You know, because we're trying to like, we'll bring on some seasoned techs here and there possibly, but we're trying to grow.
Yeah.
We're trying to grow our techs from bottom up, just like both of us were in the military.
There you go. Growing them, empowering them, influencing decisions, everything that we learned. That's what it's all about. All right, so closing remarks. I want you to go ahead and plug your business because I'm gonna put that in the description as well. Go ahead.
Well, we are Falling Star Heating and Cooling. Obviously, we do everything: heating, cooling, humidifiers. We do services. We do installs, repairs. We actually have a couple contracts right now with companies that are renting or buying houses and then renting them out.
Okay.
And we offer service package to come out twice a year.
Okay.
And just make sure everything's working properly. Change the filter, because most people don't change their filter and it's nasty and it kills your AC or heat.
Preventive maintenance.
Yeah, exactly. It's the service plan is like the biggest thing, because like you said, it's preventive maintenance instead of reactive maintenance, because you know how Murphy works. That furnace is going to die when it's like -20 outside.
Exactly.
And then they're going to be like, shit.
Definitely. And I would just make sure I'm straight. And that's in the Colorado, correct? What city are we looking at?
Yeah, so we're in Fountain. We're based out of Fountain, Colorado, but we stretch out to the surrounding areas, Colorado Springs, Woodland Park.
Gotcha.
All the areas around here.
Okay. Got it. All right, man. You got anything else you want to plug?
No.
That's good. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. Again, we had a great time, stationed on that wonderful island in the middle of the freaking ocean.
That was going to be my favorite duty station if we got to that too.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about let's talk about Okinawa for a couple seconds. I know you're getting ready to do your thing. Okinawa, where did you land at? Did you land on Kadena or did you land in mainland and flew down to Kadena?
So we touched down in mainland and sat on the airplane for hours at one of the Air Force bases up there.
Was
and
that
I think it was Yokota.
Yeah, because I think that's where we landed, in Yokota.
Yeah,
yep, sure was.
And we sat there for hours, and then we ended up flying from there down to, was it? Actually, we did fly into Kadena because we had some friends that were already there. Our friends, he's a civilian contractor over there, and Paul and Kelly, they came and picked us up from the airport, and it was it was late at night, and they came and picked us up from the airport. They already had our room key for our hotel.
There you go.
Like, they took us straight to the hotel. They had a big old laundry basket of stuff there for us, like snacks and
that's it,
laundry detergent and all kinds of stuff. I was like, man, like they took care of us.
That is the proper way to welcome people. Proper way.
Yeah.
That is the way. That's leadership.
Yep.
That is it right there. Because I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you leave a year early to go into that program? That program is escaping me right now.
Yeah. I left 6 months early.
6 months early.
Because I got picked up for the training with industry, which was amazing.
TWI.
Because I got to move to the greatest city, Boston, and go see the greatest baseball team, the Boston Red Sox. And, it was amazing. I got to go to a Patriots game while I was there.
I'll make sure I edit this part out.
We even got to sit on the front row of the Green Monster for a game against the Red Sox and Yankees.
Oh, sweet.
Which was amazing. The Yankees won, but I didn't care. Like, lightning could have struck me at that point. I was happy as pig and shit.
You at Fenway.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Gosh, dog. Let's talk about, before we close out, let's talk about your least favorite.
And I thought about that when you sent that email, and I was reading through, and I was like, favorite, easy, Okinawa.
Yep.
Done. because I don't really consider Boston a duty station because
Right.
like I was the only green shooter there. I was working
Yep.
for a civilian company, so
Yep.
it was like whatever.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about least favorite, and I can't really say I had a least favorite duty station because, like, I always told the soldiers, like, every duty station is what you make of it.
Yep.
It's all up to you. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to hate it there, then you're gonna hate it there.
Yep.
It's up to you. Like,
Yep.
but if you want to be miserable and hate it, then fine, be miserable and hate it. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I always tried to make the best of every duty station I went to.
That's
and
it.
yeah, that was about it.
That's all you can do. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate everything. Again, our friendship. I mean, that's the one I was talking to another retired first sergeant I was in Korea with a couple of days ago on these interviews, and I was like, the beautiful thing about not just the Army but the branch of material, you see a person that you were stationed with back in 2000, you don't see this person again till yesterday. All it takes is a smile, a laugh.
Yep.
Hey man, I know you from somewhere. And you start naming all these, people these common folks, and next thing you know, you're talking for hours. That is the beautiful thing about this profession. I don't know if other professions are like that, but with our profession, it's a beautiful thing, man. And you look at us right now, we haven't physically spoke outside of Facebook since maybe 2016 probably? Because I left it to Korea in 17, so it had to be 2016. So we're talking about 6 years other than Facebook, and we just jump right into it.
Well, yeah. And I mean, if you message me out of the blue, it's like, hey man, I'm coming to Colorado to, see family or whatever.
Yeah.
I need a place to stay. But like, dude, I got a spare bedroom.
Yeah. We'll hang out in Colorado. Get some of that what y'all like 2 inches above sea level over there?
Yeah. Somewhere between that and like 7,000. You can actually see the mountains over there.
Oh, sweet. Look at that. Freaking
like
awesome.
Peak right there. Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
It's a good look. Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for everything. Say hi to the family. Appreciate it. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Getting ready to retire. I will tell you that life is great. It's wonderful.
Yes, sir.
It's a beautiful thing. I love it.
Yeah.
God, I love it. It's a beautiful thing. Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate it, man.
All right, brother. Take care.
All right. You ever need anything, let me know.
Yep.